Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we are flying around, up and away, up to the cliffs and looking over the watering hole as well, because we can eat in every place today. We're talking about Evolution Flight. This is an expansion for the popular card game called Evolution from North Star Games. It's still for 2 to 6 players, but it adds a new type of species, an avian species, a bunch of cards with special abilities, some new ways to play the game. Let's check it out. I'll show you how it's played. I'll see you on the other side. In the expansion, you're going to get new species boards for avians. You're also going to get 60 new cards, and from those 60, there's 7 unique different ones that you get, and you're going to get the cliffs, which is another place for food. Now, other than these hard cards that are flights, these go with the new species when you get them. Other than those, all the other types of normal new cards that come get shuffled in with the main normal deck, and then after shuffling in, you remove 40 of those cards. Those cards will be used when you run out of the deck, which still triggers the end of the game. Now, to get one of these new avian species, on your turn during the card play phase, you're discarding 2 cards instead of just 1 to get one of these species, and in with it comes one of these flight cards, which essentially is nice. It's a hard-backed card, and essentially it's one of the 3 traits that you can use to have this. Now let me talk a little bit about what these do. So let's say I was set up like this. Now in the middle of the board, right next to the big watering hole, you'd put the cliff. And anytime you add food to the normal watering hole, you add food to the cliff for 1 for each player that's in the game. So let's say it's a 4-player game. We just added food to the watering hole. 4 food would be added to the cliff. Now, when it's your turn to feed, the avian species can now either eat from the watering hole like normal, or they can choose to eat from the cliff. Either way, they have to take this, and the first thing they have to do is fill up their body size. Now let's say he had a body size of 2 and a population of 2. So he has to fill this up because it says upkeep. They have to feed their body to keep the energy of their wings going. And it would come back around again. Let's say it's my turn again, and maybe I take one from the normal watering hole, and then we go body size. And then we come around here, and we say, now we can start actually feeding our population. Now let's say there were a couple other birds, and those got taken from some other players, and I get back to here. Well, what happens is normal. The body size ones at the end always go back to the bank. Not into your pouch for points, but they go back to the bank because they were upkeep. And then in this case, just like normal, I would come down to 1 population at the end because that's all I have fed. That's sort of how the birds work differently if you have this upkeep mentality. Now, if this species also becomes a carnivore, they can, if they want, discard a card to negate either symbiosis, climbing, or warning call before they make an attack on something. So, because naturally, thematically, that fits as well. Now here you can actually swap out a flight card for another trait, and when you do so, I'm at body size 2 and population of 1, you would bring in a normal species with the same size and population. Now you can swap from an avian to here, but you cannot swap from here to an avian like that. And that's just one different thing about that species. And now let's go over the other unique cards that come in the game. Now there's plenty of each of these, but this is just one of each. There's 2 event cards, and they get played at specific times. This Seed Dispersal, it gets played during the play cards phase right after the traits are revealed, and you place food in the watering hole equal to the number of avian species, and then you draw a card. The other event card is Dive Bomb. So you do this during the play cards phase after the traits have been revealed, and you feed one of your avian species. Now you draw a card, and then depending on your species, if it's a carnivore avian, you attack a species immediately. If you're a non-carnivore, you take 2 plant food from the watering hole, cliff, or food bank. Nesting. For each population that this species gains, if you're a land species, you take 1 food from the food bank or the watering hole. If you're avian species, you take 2 meat food. So anytime your population goes up, you immediately get food with nesting. Good eyesight. If you're a carnivore, it negates camouflage when attacking because you got good eyesight. If you're not a carnivore, before the food cards are revealed, you take 2 food from the watering hole. Camouflage is a carnivore must have this good eyesight in order to attack this species. And the last one is Brood Parasite. It only does something for avian species, so before the cards are revealed, you gain 1 population and take 1 plant or meat food if you have any other avian species. And those are all the new things in the expansion. All right, well, there is Flight, and overall, I think adding that new species really does give the game a bit of a twist. If you like this game and you've been playing it a ton, and you're tired of seeing the same cards and you're tired of just using the same old species, this could be something that gives you just that new freshness to it, because it does act quite differently. When you grab that, they grab the avian species, and you've got that thing with the upkeep, or it works quite different, but it's cool because you get to choose which one to eat off of the cliffs or the watering hole, and depending on how much food's on each one and how many other avian species are out there, it gives you just another layer of depth to figure out who should I feed first and what should I feed from. And then it's cool that you can kind of get rid of them and put them back to a normal species if there's maybe too many birds and there's just not enough food going off on the cliffs or enough food to do everybody. So overall, I think it added a decent amount to the game without adding a whole lot of complexity. Now, I wouldn't bring this out the first time I taught the game because there's already enough going on, especially with all the special text on all the cards. But as soon as someone's played this like once, I don't think it'd be too much to bring this in. Definitely if they've played twice, for sure, it's a no-brainer, super easy. But even after someone plays this once, you could bring this in and it adds a little bit there. Now, those extra new cards, yeah, sure. Those 2 event cards, I have a feeling they're going to be probably bringing more out of those because they kind of trigger at different times. So that was good as well. So overall, not crazy. Didn't completely change the game. It just added one little layer without doing a lot of complexity. So if you like this game and you're at the point where you've played it a ton, this is probably one you're going to want to check out. It's not a must-have. The game's fine by itself, but for those people wanting a little bit more, this gives it to you. That's Evolution Flight.